You don't give a fuck whether you land or not, just let him go. You don't worry about you, gonna be a shitty fight, but you gotta let punches go. Last round. You can't wait until they get, if you miss it, bang, go right back. And don't take 30 seconds to start another punch.
Alexander, I'm the best ever. There's never been anybody like me. I'm Sonny Liston, I'm Jack Dempsey, there's no one like me. I'm from Nairclaw, there's no one that can match me. My style is impeccable, my defense is impregnable.
I kept telling him he had no punch, he couldn't hit, he's swinging like a sissy, he's missing, let me see your box. I hadn't started dancing yet. A tremendous rotational first round, and Hearns gets hurt. Hearns got stunned. Hackle was stunned early in the round. Great first round. Incredible. Perhaps one of the best in middleweight history.
That black guy, he hits hard.
Fire!
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Hands of Fire Boxing Talk. I'm your host, writer, and reporter for RealCombatMedia.com, G.Alé Dampier. And your boys are back. Julius Fox and Ibn Daoud join me.
You already know. Let's talk the back.
All right, so white supremacists, Black Panther, KKK, neo-Nazis. This is going to be your episode right up your alley because we talking racism right off the bat.
This is the tribalism episode.
Yes, and obviously we're going to have to smuggle in some boxings like the boxing cartel that we are. Obviously going to talk about the fights this weekend with Leo Santa Cruz and Carl Frampton 2. And the fight I call the sleeper of the weekend because, I mean, obviously it's Showtime's competitor fight on HBO. But, you know, after doing some research on Francisco Vargas's opponent here, Miguel Birchlech, but I'm gonna get that name right at least by Sunday. Did some research on this guy Miguel, man. That's looking like it could be the sleeper of the weekend. So yeah, that's all gonna be jam packed.
I would just call him Brother Miguel because I don't want to mess up his last name.
Yeah,
Miguel.
Exactly.
Some crazy uppercuts and bolo punches, and he's like a vicious body puncher.
Dude, he has a lot of variety. A lot of variety in his punches.
This is a fight. I think this fight will be fireworks. And I didn't even know about Miguel, but like now I'm anxious to see.
Very.
I've been like put the government stuff, man. This dude, man, he got some stuff with him, man. I like the way he puts it together.
All right, man. With all this boxing shit, man, let's talk about this racism shit, man. What the fuck are you talking about? Anyway, so actually, but what the first line of discussion is going to be here is just centered around Golden Boy, because obviously there was a Blockbuster article posted basically from the main article, The Bloody Elbow, which was just an epically long, detailed piece about the whole litigation between Golden Boy and Al Heyman's PBC. And, you know, that was, you know, about a week ago, but there was, you know, some details coming out of those from that article. But even of breaking news today, Oscar De La Hoya was arrested for DUI in Los Angeles.
That shit, I just got to say this. I find that shit irreprehensible. It's one thing to sniff cocaine and put on fishnets and bras and shit with your Russian hooker in a hotel room. It is quite another thing to endanger the lives of other motorists because you don't want to fucking call an Uber. You know what I mean? I don't respect that shit at all, personally. That was me personally.
Yeah, and just to get the piece from Dan Rayfield here from ESPN, according to California Highway Patrol, De La Hoya was arrested at 1:57 a.m. and officer pulled De La Hoya over, who was driving a Land Rover on Del Mar Boulevard, west of Arroyo Boulevard. According to an incident obtained by ESPN, the investigating officers smelled an alcoholic odor in the car and administered a series of field sobriety tests, to which De La Hoya agreed, according to the report. De La Hoya failed the test and was arrested, according to the report. He was cited and released later. So I mean, you know, Los Angeles. You know, if you're in a place in your life where you're trying to recover, it seems like Los Angeles really isn't the best place to be. You know what I mean?
Nah, not at all. And we know Oscar likes to party.
Yeah, especially as
that boy love his China way, and he love his liquor, and he love his hookers. That dude love to party.
And yeah, I mean, come on, like. Especially with as much when you have it's one thing, you know, just to be living out there like as the modern Joe, but when you got money, the world is yours. The world is yours, Tony Montana.
Even more of a reason why he shouldn't be getting pulled over for a DUI. He could have just sat in the passenger seat and let somebody cart him around.
Yeah, especially when you have as many henchmen. Yeah, and it's not like he wasn't nobody.
Uber had Canelo drive him home or some shit, man.
It's a gazillion options for this man.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's just like, this is just like, you know what I mean, irresponsibility to the highest degree. I mean, how many times you gonna get jammed? You done lost half of your company. You done lost half of your company, bro. You know what I mean, messing around with your addiction. You going into rehab and everything, and you know, and I have a soft heart for that. I have family members with certain things, whatever. But at the end of the day, like first time shame on me, then shame on you, and then you know what I mean? Like
but we talking about the guy. Like, I don't feel bad for him. Your net worth is $200 million, boy.
Right.
Your net worth is $200 million. You telling me you couldn't call a fucking cab?
Yeah,
you could have caused the accident or some shit. Like, it's one thing for you to be getting high and sniffing coke with hookers in a hotel room. It's quite another thing for you to be driving while under the influence. You could cause a fucking accident, end up getting somebody babies killed and whatnot. So I don't got no sympathy for Oscar De La Hoya's demons. He's a spoiled fucking brat. He's a quote-unquote golden boy who I guess he feel he ain't got to abide by the law or what have you. Because you $200 million in, B. You can't call a fucking cab? Get out of here, man.
It's hard to have sympathy with the wealthy, for sure. And this news just is the cherry for what, like I mentioned earlier, was the details regarding his ongoing lawsuit with Al Heyman's PBC, where there were some documents uncovered that his team did not want released to the courts, which eventually was, which is how we're able to see this now, between his PR director, Ramiro Gonzalez, and journalist Hezekiah Balderas, where Balderas describes Al Heyman as Black Hitler and a nigger. And for anyone,
Black Hitler, yo.
And just to let me just point out, while I may sound white, I am a black male saying that word, so don't anyone come after me for like oh.
Nah, he said that, but I'm saying.
He did say that.
What
but
is that?
What the and yeah, that's what we were talking about this earlier, because just the term like black Hitler sounds so, like, first of all, it's an oxymoron. Right, like that's one of them shits where you get so mad that you say some dumb shit. It's like if you yell at your son and you call him a son of a bitch, you're like, oh wait, okay, wait. It's like one of those moments. Like, that doesn't even make any sense. And this
there's a lot of details in that thing, man. But the gist of that I got out of reading that article was. Golden Boy and their staff was actively taking steps to sabotage the PBC. They called Al Heyman the N-word, you know what I'm saying? They got him over there, he Black Hitler. He got people, with the pantsuit, with the big trench coat on, I guess. I'm not sure what they were trying to communicate. The more interesting part is that they actually took steps to try to sabotage the PBC, that they were going to leak privileged information into the media, honestly. And it's like, you know what I'm saying? There's such a thing as a competitiveness between rival companies and so on and so forth. So it's not as unprecedented as it sounds. It's just that with the current political climate, to be seeing this shit happening, it's like it all is synergy. Like, oh, so Al Heyman got to be the Black Hitler now, huh? He got to be the N-word now, huh? It's funny the timing that these articles are being released, given the political climate in America right now. Like, wow, B, they really coming out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's
it's an emboldening
all I
of
could
just
derive from it.
racism.
Yeah.
And here's the quote from the actual article where he's responding. I guess, Ramir or Gonzalez asks, was the last thing where he says was, "How are you doing?" His reply is, "Pretty good. I think my article goes deeper into what that nigger is doing. He's a scumbag," and the rest goes on to something in Spanish. But I mean, like, the fact that
I gotta chime in. I am a Latino, right? I'm a Hispanic male, and I hate the fact that these are Latinos that are behaving like this. I genuinely detest that shit. Because I don't know who the fuck you trying to be. You know what I'm saying? I don't know who you trying to impress when you got those kinds of views on African Americans or just black people in general. I don't know who you trying to impress or who elbows you trying to rub. But that shit is motherfucking, that's ridiculous to me, man. Because you as much a minority in this country as the black people are. And you should not have those kinds of views, period. But, it is what it is. I don't respect that shit at all. I find that behavior disgusting. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't...
And what this does, but what this does, though, it kind of goes back to, like, well, there were those people who are out there who were like, who I, at a time, I'm not going to say it was necessarily a straw man, but it wasn't the goal motive for people to think like, oh, well, people are only hating on PBC because it's a black man running the business and they don't want to see a black man in charge and da-da-da-da. And,
we're seeing that there's validity in that.
And now, yes, and now that's kind of just loaded the clip really for those guys that were saying stuff like that. Because now it seems like, well, his at least one of his two rivals have, and while I'm mentioning this, it is...
It's the chicken coming home to roost.
Well, it
pretty much.
But I do.
We've been seeing the signs. We've been seeing the signs of that shit in every debate that we've had involving a PBC fighter. How any PBC fighter, even if you talking about Keith Thurman beating Sean Porter, that guy don't get no respect. Wilder gets no respect. Errol Spence is a prospect. He is not even holding a world title, yet they already hating on him. It's like we've seen the undertones, and if you've been having these boxing conversations in these Facebook groups, you get hints at what the ulterior motive is, at what the underlying current is. Why is it that every time it's a PBC fighter, y'all ain't got no shortage of insults and bullshit to say? You know what I'm saying?
And
PBC about to give us a good ass fight for the free, not for the low, for the free. Denny Garcia versus Keith Thurman is going to be on network television. Before that, Keith Thurman and Sean Porter was on network television, man. And y'all mad at the PBC? Why would you be mad at them?
You know what really just baffles me more than anything, though, is the fact that there's racism of any kind in the sport that's so internationally inclusive as boxing. Like, there's great fighters from every pocket and nook and cranny of this planet. Like, there's great... You can pick whoever. And so, like, that's what...
Kazakhstan,
like,
man. Kazakhstan had boxers.
And even to that extent, if how are you a fan of boxing and don't like black fighters at all? Like, at all?
That's strange. That's exactly. You know what I'm saying? This is a sport. Manny Pacquiao wasn't even the first Filipino fighter.
No.
You know what I mean? Right. To a lot of people, it might look that, but he wasn't the first. And when you go back...
Flashy Lord, he was a Filipino. He was actually like a great fighter.
Like and today he's long forgotten now. Like
nobody even knows him. They think Manny's the first guy to ever.
They act like Manny's the first guy. You know what I'm saying? You got, when you look at the topographical climate of boxing, you got great Russian boxers. You got just great Eastern European boxers, like Vladimir Klitschko, Ukrainian. He's been in the game forever. You got great black fighters from America, from the United Kingdom, from fucking Sweden, dog. Badu Jack is from fucking Sweden, dog.
Hey, man, don't forget the greats like Azuma Nelson, too.
Y'all just looking at that man's skin tone like he really ain't from fucking Sweden, dog. Like he probably fucking speaks Swedish, dog.
Cuba.
It's all over the world.
Cuba.
So how you gonna be a fan of boxing?
Puerto Rico.
Like black fighters.
Cuba, Puerto Rico. I mean, shit. Brazil. All over
the place, man. All over the place. You got fucking on every corner of this planet. You got great fighters that's coming out, man. Right down to, I don't really want to big up Lucas Brown because he getting popped left and right for pads. But the point of the shit is great fighters from all over this dumbass planet. But the people in this planet are too dumb to give each other props for that shit. It's good fighters all over the world. You ain't got to hate black fighters. You ain't got to hate Mexican, Puerto Rican, white fighters, Russian fighters. It don't make sense to watch this sport if that's the kind of overview that you got.
You want to know the thing about it is, to me, being honest, it just really just shows how people are. Because when you look at it, everybody, you enjoy something about the sport of boxing. Like, it's a style. It's something. You like knockouts. You like defense. You like dudes. You like work rates, high work rates. Like, whatever you like. And you will get that style of fighter in every nationality.
Exactly.
So, what I'm saying is, if you like Mike Tyson and you like Marvin Hagler and you don't like GGG, that don't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
It don't.
Yeah. So and to the counter,
you
yeah.
You like Edgar Charles and you like Georgie Benton and you like Henry Hank and you like Pernell Whitaker. You don't like Vasilino Machenko.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying?
Doesn't make sense. So at the end of the day, you're showing that that's who you are. It ain't got nothing to do with our sport, man. Straight up.
That's nail on the fucking head right there.
I gotta talk about the race car when I'm talking on the page or when we on podcast, and people look at me like I'm crazy. But then when you see a media person conspiring with a front office person of a major,
Golden Boy.
Yeah.
Like Golden Boy.
Major promotional company, bro.
And
they conspire actively.
Dan Raphael ain't talked about it.
That's the fun. And I was on his Twitter. Earlier.
No, let me talk about Joe, Julius. I'm from Philly. I love Bernard growing up and all that, man, but this is like very disappointing. This man ain't said nothing. And basically, this guy got to be working for you to some degree, right? I mean, like you have a share, right? You got something, right?
You got stock.
He a partner over there. He's a partner over there. He's just as invested as the rest of them guys.
That's crazy. Man, that's crazy, man. And if it wasn't for like YouTube.
So hold on, Evan, wait. So you're saying that he the Steve Harvey?
Man, listen. How I'm feeling right now, like ain't been no statement enough. And I understand, I understand business, but like, yo, man, this ain't like the days of like shucking and jiving, bro.
He's Charles Barkley of the shit.
He's protecting.
I'm not even going to compare him, man. For real. I don't even want to laugh because it's kind of like very disappointing. My son is a fighter. City, man.
He's protecting.
I'm gonna put you like this, man. It doesn't. I wouldn't be surprised if Bernard Hopkins knows about this kind of behavior because these kinds of people that have these practices, they can't hide that shit. That shit be falling out their pocket. And little shit that they say and little subtleties, little views that they have, you could always, they ain't hard to find. So I'm pretty sure Bernard Hopkins knows what kind of people he's working with. And it all comes from a survival instinct. If he down with it, it's a survival instinct. You just said that shit earlier before we even started the podcast that, I got to look out for me. Yep. And I got to do what's right for me.
Yep.
So maybe Bernard feels what's right for him is shucking and jiving. I got it.
Yeah, and what I want to add real quick though, before we leave this topic in general, the racist comments were quoted from the journalist, so there wasn't anything necessarily racist coming from Ramiro, but the fact that he felt so comfortable to use this language with him, and is what's concerning.
What that means is this.
It goes back to that old proverb. Go back to that proverb where they say so and so was talking shit about you to me, and the only question I got for you is, why does so and so feel so comfortable to talk shit about me to you?
Yep.
That's because you be doing that shit too.
Yep.
Right, bro. People like Ramiro smart. They know not to talk like that on emails and stuff like that.
What he is guilty though is like Julius was mentioning, or taking steps to really sabotage PBC in certain ways. So where like there's the points where he's replying to Gonzalez, where he's saying Black Hitler, is where he's saying, hey, look, I'm going to do this to sabotage their operation by doing this, and he's like, yeah, great, get that Black Hitler. It's that's what those kind of responses were warranting.
Right.
So
because it bothers them to see a guy like Al Heyman who's doing, it reminds, not for nothing, and this is a very sordid subject, which is why I hate the bro shit, but it reminds me of Black Wall Street, the original Black Wall Street, where people synced that shit, and it was doing good,
they burnt it
and
down.
they was to themselves over there, they wasn't even bothering nobody, and motherfuckers just didn't like it, so they destroyed that shit, and I feel that that's how people look at the PBC, that you got predominantly, should I say, a prosperous black man running the show, and motherfuckers don't like that shit. It bothers them. It gets under their skin. They don't like it, so they'll do anything to sabotage.
Well, from nigger to nigga, we go to Angel Garcia, who has been receiving a lot of
leave Angel alone, man.
A lot of criticism. Well, you know what? Let me go in real quick after I give this lead real quick, because Angel Garcia, he's been receiving criticism for his outbursts at the past press conference between him and Keith Thurman, where he got up in the middle of while Keith Thurman was talking. He's going on about how I beat up Daddy's boys and things like that, and Angel just starts going off like, oh no, you nothing but a bitch ass nigga, you a bitch ass nigga, and literally just keeps like going on and on, like that's literally his only reply to while they're while they're
when he said that shit.
like while they're going off in a tussle. So like that's like literally the only thing he's saying. But here and
he's like saying that shit like Pikachu, like Pika.
Yeah, Pika, bitch ass nigga, bitch ass nigga, bitch ass nigga, bitch ass nigga. But here's and my boy Michael Montero, who can sometimes make really great points and then kind of veers off. I think like maybe 20% of his videos sometimes made a good point where the fact that like. And I'm not necessarily surprised that, one, it's Angel Garcia who's being caught up in saying some dumb shit and now being penalized for it. Because I've always felt like this as far as a member of the boxing media, that Angel Garcia provides nothing as far as context for any type of quotes regarding his fighter, which is only Danny Garcia, or boxing in general. Like, he gives you no quotes. If you, like, I think people really just, like, guys that just like to show up at the DSG gym and just, like, put a microphone in his face or a camera on him and just like to hear him say crazy shit and get YouTube hits off this shit. Like, he provides nothing.
He's good for boxing in that way because Angel says controversial shit.
See, but the thing is, there's no
quote that's out there.
But there's no logic. There's no logic to it, though, man. He just says shit for shock value. And I can't like that's why like I get upset just seeing him like on camera half the time. It's like, yo, why are you even wasting your time interviewing this nigga? He says nothing.
I'm gonna put it to you this way. They did garner a lot of attention. If the fight didn't already have attention on it, they definitely got more attention based on Angel's comment at that press conference.
And here's the point that I wanted to finish up on as far as the lead of everything and the actual news of it all. Is the reason why this was, and for many, this is typical Angel. Like, this is nothing really surprising. Just like myself, Ibn, I'm sure you aren't surprised. I mean, you see this on the daily. Like, you've been to his gym. That's how he talks. But the problem with this was, and what kind of made it such, so much attention, was the fact that this is one of those fights that are going to be on, for Al Heyman, one of his CBS fights. And you can't necessarily talk like that in such a big, in such a big setting and such a big event centered around this.
Well, that's
like, you can't do that.
Tantamount to a field reporter going out in the street and talking to people, and then the guy says, hey, I'm gonna fuck her right in the pussy. One way or another. Devoid of the context. You can't talk like that in front of this camera. You feel what I'm saying? Like, you might just fuck her in the pussy. You might grab her by the pussy. Who knows what you're going to do to the pussy? But you can't say that shit while there's cameras in your face.
No.
You can't talk like that. This ain't YouTube. You can't be talking like that.
At the end of the day, like, I'm gonna keep it real. Like, I dealt with Angel a couple of times, man. Angel was cool. He didn't like appear racist or nothing. He wasn't using the N-word or nothing, because usually, like, the kids are there, they box him and stuff. You know what I mean? But, like, you know, I know other people that, like, have been around him for long periods of time, and they was like, you know, everybody knows, like, Angel is not, like, racist now. Here, you know what I mean, the Latinos, they more so identify with the African American more so than anything. So them using the N-word in the neighborhood, they live in the neighborhood, they all live together. You know what I'm saying? Black house, Puerto Rican house, black house, Puerto Rican house, Dominican house. It's like that around there. So that's how they talk. But the thing is, he has to know, you know what I mean? He has to be professional. You know what I'm saying? That's not for out there like that. You don't act like that. And whatever they give him as a punishment or whatever they do to him, I see what they said, he's not going to be allowed.
But I feel this is being blown out of proportion. And the reason I feel this is, we come from a sport where a guy like Larry Holmes could leg drop Trevor Burbick off a fucking car leading up to a press conference. We come from a sport where Buster Douglas could sucker punch, I forgot the fucking guy. He decked the shit out of him in that. We come from a sport where Rockmar and Lennox Lewis got into the shit leading up to the fight at the interview. You feel what I'm saying?
Hey, don't forget. Don't forget about.
Angel calls Keith Thurman a bitch ass nigga. That's news. That's not news, fam. Angel was from the hood, man. He's a Philly fucking Rican. If you from the fucking, you know, maybe you from fucking Iowa or some shit, or maybe you from fucking Wyoming, and this shit seems strange and exotic to you. But Angel was from the hood, man, and there's nothing shocking about what the fuck he did. Maybe he feel Keith Thurman is a bitch ass. Maybe he do, but that's not because he's a racist. That's because Keith got a ponytail. This ain't the 80s, fam. What are you, Steven Seagal of Florida?
Right,
get the fuck out of here,
and that's why I pointed more to the fact that he was doing this on a major network. Like, I'm not too tied up the fact that he was saying, you know, nigga or whatever, because, and I think that's where some of the other, you know, shock is coming from, and the criticism is like, oh, you know, he said nigga, but you're a very light-skinned Puerto Rican, like, you can't say that, and like we were talking about earlier, I'm from a very heavy Latino populated area where there's mostly Mexicans and Puerto Ricans, and shades of guys that are just like Danny, saying nigga all the time. Like it's nothing like crazy to me, just because, and this is where one of the points where I feel like Michael Montana was very off, was that he was under the assumption that, you know, Puerto Ricans or 70% of Puerto Ricans are Caucasian. Which is, you know, that's literally a fact pulled out of his ass, because I know for certain. First of all, this is what this, and if I could just break away from boxing for a second, and just talk about geography and, you know, history for a moment, because that's kind of like my thing. I like to always remind Puerto Ricans when there's always those, you know, there are those Latinos that like to think, oh, you know, I'm very fair, and, you know, I'm not to be associated with those darkies or whatever. You know what I mean? You guys are just mulattoes that just kept that trend going. That's literally
what the fuck it is.
All it is. Like, you guys are just mixed race people that kept finding other mixed race people. Like, you can keep hiding that all you want, but and that's essentially what they are.
Montero said that, because I like his fucking videos.
And I do too.
That shit.
That's what I.
He's way fucking off.
That's what I do too.
Just way off.
That's and I did too. You know, Bo. You know, shout out to Bo. He tagged me in that video and told me, you know, I was like, yo, George, I need to know what you think about this. And I saw it once I got out of work, and typically, you know, I usually, like I said, I agree with just about 80% of whatever Michael says. But, you know, he has a way when he goes into his social issues, like, he kind of goes off into a little bit of where I like to call those libertarian riffs. You know what I mean? Where, you know, it's like you don't want to necessarily say you're a Republican because you're embarrassed about it, but you're like, oh, I just want to say that I'm in the middle type. One of those
Hell
things.
yeah, it's in the subtleties,
Yeah.
man. The devil's in the details. I can spot a Republican a mile away.
Yeah, you can't hide it from me.
Yeah.
You know, you can hide behind that little yellow flag and snake and shit, but I know what you're saying. But
Exactly.
the point, but like I said, so Puerto Ricans for the most part have a very solid African American lineage in them. So and like you had mentioned, Julius, in a post where I think you had responded to like Alexis or somebody like that, where we have like plenty of Puerto Rican rappers that have said nigga plenty of times, and no one and
Fat Joe,
and
Big Pun.
I think an Interscope.
Motherfuckers say nigga all the time, man.
Yeah, so you can't act surprised now that like you're seeing it, but like again, what I've made my main point though with this is that it's on a major network, so that's where it's got to be pulled back. I can understand the street cred, but just pull it back.
CBS taking the stance that they took based on what Angel said is very similar to the stance that Nike took when Manny Pacquiao said what he said.
Yeah.
You know, he said what he feels his religion inclines him to feel, and Angel Garcia felt inclined to call Keith Thurman a bitch. Maybe it's the ponytail. Who fucking knows?
Yeah, and due to this whole thing, I just want to make sure I noted that the members for both fighters' teams will not be allowed to speak in the in the following conferences from this. So, and that includes.
Well, you know, maybe that's better for the fight anyway. I mean, I want to hear Danny Garcia talk. I was excited because Danny don't talk, man. Danny just don't say shit. You know, Angel is the mouthpiece. Maybe this would be an opportunity for us to see some pound-for-pound shit talking from Danny Swift Garcia. I like when he got mad and he got a key face and he was talking that shit. That was exciting. You know what I'm saying? Let Danny talk shit for a change. I want to see that. So if Angel gonna close his mouth, I bet Danny, you up.
Danny is like shit. Cool and humble, man. I don't even know how much he gonna really talk shit. He might, I don't know, but he's like.
Danny got a temper though, and we think that after the fight.
No,
he got a temper.
Yeah,
he can flare up, but like, yeah, I think it's gotta be like I guess the Thurman's in his face or something, but like, he really cool, man. He's a cool dude.
Yeah, and you notice,
man, I'm just saying that I like to see him get mad. I like seeing Danny get upset.
Yeah.
You know how many people talk shit about Danny Garcia? Sometimes it's warranted, sometimes it's not. But I like seeing that he can react to that shit. He ain't just going, you know what I'm saying? Daddy ain't just going to come up.
He ain't no nut.
Yeah, but if you notice, like even in that little scuffle that Angel and Thurman were having, he really won't get so upset until you either start saying or start yelling at his dad. Like then that's when he'll start getting up. Like, oh, whoa, you're not gonna da. Like then that's when he starts getting vocal.
Yeah,
but,
and that's what I want. Cause hey man, Angel ain't the one that's going to have a fight, man. You feel what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Angel getting riled up at the press conference is a little funny to me because it's like, damn dog, you thought Angel was fighting for the fucking WBC and
right? You forgot who was
like,
fighting.
He mad as shit. If Danny's just sitting there smiling, looking at people in the crowd and shit, it's like, come on, man. Show us something, man. Show us you gonna fuck him up, man. Make us think twice, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I ain't mad. Like I said, I ain't mad at Angel. I don't even think that shit really deserved attention other than the fact that they ain't gonna let Angel talk. That's a fucking first. Because he's usually the one with the most to say.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm glad about that, though, because in a way, it's kind of a gimmick. And just, and most of it's just unnecessary verbiage, man. It's like just shut the fuck up. Like I always find myself, I just find myself saying that.
Man, when he said, I ain't never seen a Pakistani that can fight. Man, that shit. It gets people mad, man. Makes people close their hand.
Hey, but you know what? But how does that help Danny as a star and going forward? You know what I mean? Danny's got to speak up for himself at some point. He can't just have his dad. That's part of becoming. That's what I feel like would have him break away from that local Philly star to being more of a national star.
Well, that kind of leads in a personal thought that I have that. I have Keith Thurman winning this fight. I think he's going to win this fight. But I have a funny thought. It's a passing thought that it might be better for boxing if Danny wins the fight. Boxing as a sport, It might be better if he wins a fight.
Yeah, but it won't be good for me. It won't be good for me, Julius. Don't say no shit like that. I don't want to see this.
I'm not. Hey, don't. I got Keith Thurman.
Of course it'd be good for you, man.
I got Keith Thurman winning the fight. He got better punch placement. He's a stronger guy. He's only an inch shorter than Danny, but who gives a fuck about that? You know what I'm saying? Ultimately, skill-wise, they're kind of even match, but I think Danny's outgunned. I don't see him standing up to no fucking punches from no Keith Thurman, man. Sorry, I don't see it.
Of course, it'd be good for you, Ibn, man. You already in the dude's gym like that on a daily basis anyway. So, man, you can just
not a daily basis, but
just about every other day. You damn near close.
I ain't mad at Ibn if he wanna root for
I want to listen.
I ain't mad.
I'm gonna be honest about this fight, man. Man, listen, Thurman, man, that's a bad one, man. Like, you know what I mean? But I'm rocking with him because Danny's like a natural winner. He got heart, you know what I'm saying? And people, they be trying not to respect him, and he got a better resume than a lot of people that they do respect.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Due to a couple situations, they try to act like, you know what I mean, he's some type of sucker or something, man. And Danny ain't no sucker, man. Danny a cool dude, man. Look out for the kids in his neighborhood and stuff like that, man. So, on an all-around basis, I like him. And in the ring, I mean, well, he undefeated. You know what I mean? So what about, all right, Herrera, Lamont Pearson, whoever. But other than that, you know what I mean, solid. And he's good.
Danny is solid, man. Look, I got like a love-hate relationship with Danny Garcia. I was defending Danny Garcia at the beginning of the year, because I felt like y'all shouldn't be talking shit about him like that. Like, he done more than a lot of guys that you fucking like. You know what I'm saying? He done more than Triple G. The fuck? If we gonna be real. It's just, you know what I'm saying? You go back and if you watch this sport a lot, you gonna love and hate some fighters. I used to hate Lennox Lewis. But
yo, real rap.
I used to hate Lennox Lewis, but I respect him now. Now that I'm older, I respect him because I realized, man, this motherfucker was just beating everybody up.
Yeah, he's just good.
Yo. I liked him, then I hated them, then I liked them again.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't literally hate Danny Garcia. I don't hate him. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying that right now I got Keith Thurman winning this fight. Man. That's all I'm saying. And it ain't even about love and hate. I'm just picking. Hey, I think Keith. I think Danny's
really
out.
It's hard to give Danny. I love Danny, but it's hard to give Keith the fight. Though. Like on the textbook, on the make my pick. It's hard to give it.
Hey, look. If it was Danny Garcia, I'm gonna put it to you like this. If it was Danny Garcia versus say Tim Bradley, I would pick Danny to win that fight. I would pick Danny to win that fight. I don't know about that. I gotta think about that.
That's interesting.
I gotta think about that. I don't know about all that.
He could beat Sean Porter. I think he could beat him.
You think that shit?
Yeah, because
you need to stop hitting that motherfucking blunt and shit.
Listen,
I don't know about all that.
Listen. When you got a crazy bicycle, you know what I mean? Sometimes it can look bad for Danny, right? But if you gonna be there, he gonna be a good boxer. I'm telling you.
Danny got better punch placement than Sean Porter, but what he don't got is better legs.
He don't got the pressure.
Got better legs.
He don't got the pressure either.
When you can't get away, Keith Thurman could get away from that shit.
Listen, Danny, if you back Danny in the corner, he's like an alley cat, bro. He ain't running.
But that don't mean that he's not outgunning. I mean, he might be cornered, but he's not. You see Danny Garcia outgunning Sean Porter.
All right.
It's showtime, man.
There's no look left hooks. It's game.
Yeah, well, speaking of
no look left hook.
Speaking of pick'ems,
he like Amir Khan out there.
What the fuck did you get?
Get all right. Anybody get hit? No, I don't care who it is. Anybody get hit?
Guerrero got hit with that shit. He was still there, fam. What are you talking about?
Yummy. Ate him.
The Guerrero joint was good boxing. It got to be the no-look joint, dog. It's a wrap.
He wasn't looking, dog.
I'm telling you, dog.
Yo,
funny, but y'all know what I'm talking. George, you know what I'm talking about.
I know who you're talking about, but you just be playing. You be playing right into his right into his vulnerabilities.
You think it's a game?
No. You think it's a fucking game?
He was fighting Guerrero.
You not gonna fucking no-look hook Sean Porter, and he's gonna go somewhere, dog. You want really, fam? Didn't we just see the majesty of Sean Porter's fucking chin against Keith Thurman? But you got Danny Garcia sending him somewhere?
He got caught. But I don't care. But listen, though, I don't care because Danny, that wasn't Danny.
What?
That wasn't Danny. I don't care. It was Thurman.
What?
Man, listen.
Dog, listen. No. Here, to just to debunk that real quick. Out of Danny and Thurman, clearly there's one that is a more legitimate 147 pounder.
Oh yeah, that's obvious.
And that's all. That's all I needed to say. So
could fight at 154.
exactly.
And don't forget that Sean Porter fought at middleweight in the Emmys, didn't he? And you got fucking Danny Garcia.
No, he hit you, dog.
Yo, all right.
I'm biased.
Clearly.
I just said I'm biased. Stop asking.
Yo, let's
I admitted it.
let's just move on. Yo, let's just move on.
No, we gonna leave that. We gonna leave that one alone.
Yeah,
leave that one alone.
just gonna move on from your delusionalism. I want to just hop out of your fanboyism and just put you into a neutral
That's
position.
patriotism.
All right. So
Patriotism is not fanboy.
So the fights this weekend, we got, this actually kind of crept up on me, was the Carl Frampton Leo Santa Cruz 2 fight to be on Showtime this weekend. I think we've talked about this, fellas. I see the same winner coming out on top again. I don't know about you guys.
Victory.
Yeah, I think he knows what's coming at him this time. He's more prepared. But in the same time, what I will acknowledge at Leo Santa Cruz is that, for someone who was able to, definitely identify why he lost, kind of just gives me an idea of, how does he change that approach? You know what I mean? Because when you listen to when Leo talk about how he lost, he was like, well, he countered me effectively. He waited. He used my aggressiveness against me, and and things like that. So when you hear a fighter like who's able to break it down like that, the same way you do as a fan and an analyzer, it kind of makes you think, well, gee, what do you do to combat that?
What are the odds? What are the odds that? I mean, it's not that it can't happen, right? It's not that it can't happen. But I ain't ever looked at Leo Santa Cruz as a guy who could make adjustments, who could be a pound-for-pound fighter. I never seen that out of him.
No.
From the first time I seen him on Maypac fighting that fucking insurance salesman, and I'm going to get mad. From the first time I seen him on that card fighting that insurance salesman and he ain't get him out of there, I knew in my heart and in my soul that Leo Santa Cruz ain't shit, okay? And then I saw he really ain't much in the Mahrez fight, but I respected the victory. But how he chose to fight like he's in a fucking phone booth. You got a height advantage, reach advantage. You don't want to use none of that shit. You want to fight him in a crawl space. Well, I just always in my heart felt Leo is only a countdown before somebody take his O. Just so happens it was Carl Frampton. I betted on Leo to win that fight. Well, not betted. I picked Leo to win that fight. I ain't had nobody to bet with. I thought Leo was going to win that fight like Carl's just moving up. He didn't look particularly impressive in the Scott Quick fight. This might be a little, easy win for Leo. Carl surprised me. That being said, I don't see him beating Carl this time out. I see Carl just outsmarting him again.
What about you, Ibn?
The same thing going that I've been told I was going to happen the first time. You get outboxed, and it's going to be a little bit worse this time because Frampton done read this book already. And Leo Santa Cruz was going to get outboxed by the first person that could box that got their hands on.
Agreed.
And I told y'all that, and it's just happening, and that's all.
I ain't think it was going to be Carl Frampton. I ain't think it was going to be him because he was just moving up.
See, but you know what? That's what made it tough for me, though. Was the fact that, in a way, I did trust Carl Frampton's boxing ability. It was really just the physicality that made me kind of second guess everything.
Yeah, I thought Leo was going to be too much for him. Leo liked to throw a lot of punches. He's a real aggressive guy. And I thought it might be too much for Carl, that being his first fight in the division.
And now that you see that, you know, he can deal with it, and I guess just to go full circle with the point I was trying to come across with, you know, with Leo being able to identify what went wrong, you know, and they always say with fighters, you know, when you fight a certain way for so long, and it, you know, it's like when, you know, when a fighter gets a new trainer, you know, like you can't just become a whole nother fighter within one camp.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's true.
So,
I mean, it's kind of like the Klitschko thing, where Klitschko was able to identify where he went wrong in the Tyson Fury fight. And it is possible, because Klitschko certainly has a bigger punch than Steve Cunningham. Steve Cunningham put Tyson Fury on his ass. So maybe since Klitschko was able to identify what he did wrong, it might make a difference. But you still are, your chin is still your chin, though. We ain't forget what Corey Saunders did to you. You know what I mean? So you might be able to identify what you did wrong, but that doesn't mean you could do something about it. You are who you are.
That's true.
Put on his punches like that, though.
He damn sure don't. He damn sure don't. It's all on the fly.
Very much so.
That's what. I mean, but I still think Klitschko would have won that rematch, though. I do feel he would have won that rematch. Klitschko is a champion. Shout out to Vladimir Klitschko. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
He probably not listening, but shout out to him. I like that guy. He's a good guy.
That man's at work right now preparing for
He preparing to get knocked the fuck out by
for the
Anthony
man who's
Joshua. Shout out to Anthony Joshua.
trying to fulfill his destiny. You know, he's stepping up to me. You're not about that life, mate.
Fulfill my destiny.
You're not about that life, mate. You're coming up to me talking all that. I can't do that.
They're gonna fuck him up, man. He is gonna fuck him up.
You getting all up in me face.
It might be interesting, though, to see Klitschko let his hands go.
Definitely. Yo, anybody. I'm sorry, I'm a little lit right now. But there's you know, I got a video of my Anthony Joshua. Yeah, I'm still cracking up in a way about that. But yeah, so if you are interested in seeing my imitation of Anthony Joshua, you can always go to the Great Boxing page on Facebook, Ring IQ, where we do all of our banter at. Peep the Ring IQ YouTube channel that Julius is doing a marvelous job of handling.
Thank you very much.
If you want to see a young, great amateur boxer going pro in his not too distant future, a young fighter out of Philly who's just happened to be the son of Ibn Dawood, you can catch him on February 25th. So, I mean,
he's going to be at Frampton at Ridiculously Fit Gym. There's going to be a boxing showcase there. Little Future going to be there. The Grandy Twins, they all fighting on that card. The Grandy Twins on the team. My son's on the boxing team with him. Team King Sesame. So, we're going to go down there. He's a debut. So, you know, the kid we fighting, he got 2 fights already. So, you know, we can do.
And if you guys want to know a little secret, Salim is gonna fuck this little kid up. All right, but y'all gonna hear it here. Okay,
you can't activate that. Yo, his opponent, his name is Malcolm, and Malcolm is a young country lad that can't
Tell Brock is a hell of a fighter.
He's gonna give me. He's gonna give you some.
Look, he can't be overlooked.
He can't be overlooked. I can't overlook this guy.
He's trained by Danny Davis' son, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's okay. So, you know what I mean? And see, he's a hungry young lion that can't be overlooked, but we game.
All right, well, catch all the updates on, 22 Bay Boxing on Instagram. Catch me at G.Alé 6 on Instagram. George Ale Dampier on Facebook. Georgie Dampier on Twitter. And you already know what the YouTube is because you're watching it. Anything else you guys want to put in before we get up out of here?
Billy Joe Saunders is being trained by Adam Booth. I'm counting down in 2017 till somebody fucked him up. Fuck him up, that's all. That's all. That's the past thought.
And Ring IQ on Instagram, man, coming soon, man.
We gotta have a
and everything popping and everything, man. So, because I had to get you guys an outlet for the memes, man. You guys can get about free.
Nice. I like it. All right. So, with that being said, we up out of here. Peace.